Yep. All solid. Oh, good. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I think so. Always just, but you are the decision maker. Oh, good. Good, 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 Bendy. We're getting there, bro. Yep. We are ready to roll and we are live. Folks, what a huge day this is going to be. 12:05. Yep. We are ready to roll. I can't thank Bendy enough. Guy is just so dynamic, inspiration. We are just waiting for our cue from JR, and then we're going to begin our fine program. I get it. A lot of people are off today. You think I'm not aware of that? We're well aware of that. We are not. So it's a huge news day. It's a huge news day, as a matter of fact. Nope. Big news day. Big news day. So right now, it is 12:05. All right, so we're live. Remember, wherever you're listening, we are once again expanding our platforms. Very exciting. Good. And we're going to be live in just un momento. I mean, to me, this is not a beach day, but I know some people are at the beach, but it's a free country, yes, they say. At 12:06 on this Friday. Yes, it is July 5th. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380, 99.9 FM. This will serve as well. We're kind of altering the name a little bit. We're moving a little bit into the real news at noon, so to speak, or the real news at different. It's definitely at noon. Sometimes it may be a little bit into the afternoon, but definitely always real news at noon. And this is a very significant day. And the fact is because of what's going to happen tonight. And I know there's other stories out there, and people want to focus on some of the other stories that are out there, but you can't. I mean, I think a little bit of it's insanity. What's going on? We're going to break it down for you. A lot of people are off today. We're not. We're certainly going to be available later. So within reason. But folks, I want to just remind everybody this portion of our program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Right now, they have locally sourced vegetables, sweet corn, native tomatoes. What a selection they have. Find out why they're Rhode Island's #1 garden center. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They're having a great season. 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Steve and Debbie and Junior and Byron, hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets, hanging patience, pansy, marigold beds, large selection of beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs, for crying out loud, plus tropical mandavillas, screen loom mulch available. They're a full-scale nursery. They're open 7 days a week. And remember, sweet corn, native tomatoes, folks, it's PR, Landscape Materials, and Garden Center. All right, now remember, you can always check out our website, depetro.com. I encourage you to do that, as a matter of fact, because we have the links to all of our different social media pages. God bless me, whether it's Instagram, whether it is TikTok or Facebook or X or YouTube. and we're certainly going to start to build up our presence in YouTube. DePietro.com. Plus, we have videos, exclusive stories and videos. They're waiting for you at DePietro.com, brought to you by the Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. Remember, lunch, dinner, drinks, and lounge, they're waiting for you at the Cohasset Inn. Now, I want to just touch on, now listen, I like road patrol. Obviously, people like it. We're going to be doing it tonight. We're going to be doing it all summer. But I want people, maybe I need to monitor or rein in expectations a little bit. People have different ideas of what it is or what it could be. And at the White House, well, maybe that's not a good example. I was going to say what they do is they call a lid, which means, the news is kind of done for the day. Now, with President Biden, it's earlier and earlier. But with some people, you got to understand that obviously I enjoy road patrol. I created it. I wouldn't be doing it. But it doesn't mean at 2:30 in the morning, I'm like going out to Chad Brown because there's a fight or something like that. There's remember, there's different elements that we have to come into play. Everyone, and I hear from people all over the region, whenever it's people see police presence, to them, what they're seeing, they think it's huge. Many times it's not huge. Now, Cranston did have a serious situation, and Cranston police, we had a little more notice. They're going to have a press conference this afternoon, and they're going to announce that they've made an arrest. They had a stabbing, and then as people were escaping, they even had a fatality. So, but they did make an arrest. And so, a little more notice, we would have been at that. It's going to be, I think, at 12:30. We can't be everywhere. I kind of accept that. But you got to understand, it's within reason that, because there's many times, and I do want to talk about, to me, the real story, we are going to do road patrol tonight. I would envision, though, we're going to do it past 8 o'clock. I want to see President Biden tonight. I think you also see a big divide right now with what's happening with our local leaders. And there's so many different facets to this. But you got to understand that it can't be everywhere. And I recognize that, people, want us to cover a lot of things. That was someone that I know they're calling and would like us to attend the Cranston briefing. And again, I've covered some of those. We have covered some of those in the past. We'll cover them in the future. I'm very happy Cranston police were able to make that arrest. But and again, it's just I ultimately have to make the call on different things and whether or not we can be there, and because of various elements of so many projects that we're involved in, we could not. But to me, the story of the day is not only what's going on at the White House, but what has been going on at the White House. And this is, I believe, what you're seeing happening right now with the White House is there is talk, and it should be investigated, and this should be ideally a nonpartisan type of issue. But what we're talking about has been a concerted effort and conspiracy to withhold and mislead the public as to the health of the President of the United States. Now, again, obviously, I'm interested in the Karen Read trial, and I have covered that extensively, and there'll be more coverage of that. Obviously, I am concerned about the fact that you have a Governor McKee, who puts out a bid that is so unrealistic and so filled with foolishness that they completely wasted time, and no one bid on a project potentially worth $800 to $1 billion. Obviously, I'm concerned about that, like so many other people. But the larger picture here is something that, and I want to credit Donna Perry, that we have talked about, and where this becomes connected locally. Number one, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey is saying, I am not on board with what's going forward. It's you can't erase what happened last Thursday. Governor McKee is fully on board. Now, a lot of people like to talk about former Governor, Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, Kamala Harris. These are people. These are real questions. Have they been part of a conspiracy to cover up what the real health of the president is? I mean, these are very, very serious accusations. So, this business that he's going to sit down with George Stephanopoulos for a TV interview. So, is that where we're at right now? That's the bar of whether or not this is preposterous. Anyone that has spent any time with or seen the president, I think the larger question at play here is how long has this been going on? You know, kind of like the ultimate, what did people know? When did they know it? And how much of a concerted effort involving the First Lady, members of the staff, have they been involved in? By the way, the president now said, President Biden said he's going to start going to bed at 8 o'clock at night. So technically, he's going to be asleep while the interview is taking place. Does that make sense to anyone? This is a position that, you know, midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. Hillary did the whole commercial of the, you know, the phone goes off, the hotline, the red line goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning. Chinese troops are on the border of Taiwan. Iran is firing missiles into Israel. Russia's now on the border of Poland. And you're dealing with a president that says he's going to start going to bed at 8 o'clock at night, and this is after he takes a nap during the day. Like this is just Olivia Nunzi in January. I was hearing similar stories from Democrat officials, activists, donors who started the conspiracy of silence to protect the president. This is on the people around him. This isn't even on him anymore. So Governor Gina Raimondo, for instance, when she said to 60 Minutes, before she went to China, the person that gave her the best advice was President Biden. But in essence, that's a complete, no one believes that. She's part of the conspiracy. And New York Magazine, the conspiracy of silence to protect Joe Biden. The president's mental decline was like a dark family secret for many elite supporters. When did this was, I guess, just put out yesterday, but this has been going on for a while. This business of, you know, he was still fine. He told, old, sure, yeah, but he's fine. You know, polls look good, money's good. He looks pretty good for 81, right? President Biden, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. But now more and more stories, and what you have to understand is more stories are leaking out that in essence, this has been a full-scale conspiracy by this administration and by everyone involved, including the vice president, to go along with this idea that he's actually fine and hiding things when it is obvious to anyone, and the White House can't even get their story straight. So, as I started to say, you know, is the Karen Read trial and the fact that no matter what Paul O'Keefe says and everything that's come out of it and the testimony, you still have people that want to continue to go along, even though the defense isn't even going to do the big conspiracy next time. They're not even going to go down that path. I'm not saying it's not a story. And the same thing with the Washington Bridge. The fact that you have a governor that has wasted all this time, they have to go back to the drawing board. Governor McKee, like his idol Biden, proving that he actually should not be in office right now with a ridiculous timeline. How many companies, how many construction companies turn down jobs that would ultimately be worth $800 million to $1 billion? That's how outrageous it is. It's a pay-to-play atmosphere. You have to hire this one. You got to use this vendor, cut corners. Don't worry about regulations. We just need it done by September 1st. You know how bad it is? No one bid on it. That's how bad it is. Folks, I want to remind you about Royal Exteriors. Call them today, 401 533 9989. Call Andrew. If you're thinking of getting a new roof or siding, Royal Exteriors, free estimate, 401 533 9989. Roof or exterior. Remember, Royal Exteriors, where the customer is king. Now, you can find them on Facebook, and they also have a very good website, royalexteriorsri.com. If right now, maybe it's because we've had some of the heavy rain, whether it's for your business or for your home, call Royal Exteriors, 401 533 9989. Remember, with Royal Exteriors, you deal directly with the owner. Get them into the mix. Allow them to pitch your business. You're going to want them involved. And their reviews are fantastic. Again, if you're thinking of a new roof, at least call. They're based right in Johnston. Royal Exteriors, where the customer is king or queen, 401 533 9989. So, folks, good afternoon. Right now at 12:20, but I want to go off the idea that if he has a good interview with George Stephanopoulos tonight, and again, obviously, we're talking about the situation with President Biden. The idea that somehow that if he has a good interview with George Stephanopoulos, that means that everything is fine. I mean, it's just the whole element is laughable, right, on its face. It doesn't matter if they prop him up and he can do a 15-minute taped interview with George Stephanopoulos. He's only getting older. Let me look at some of the headlines. Biden faces critical day to push back against calls to withdraw. Staff miserable, alarmed as pressure builds and builds. They're part of it. This is the ultimate. The emperor has no clothes. What we saw last Thursday, that was 8 days ago. Last Thursday, that wasn't a one-off. He didn't have a cold. He wasn't jet lagged from 2 weeks ago. This is so unfair. This is who he is right now. And the decline is only going to increase. So the idea that somehow that's not who he, that's exactly who he is. We all saw it. And anyone that has had an older relative, it's aging. Some people age a little slower. Some people age a little more gracefully. He didn't do anything wrong. The staff is miserable, alarmed as pressure builds and builds. Allies abroad think it's untenable for him to stay. That is true. Conspiracy of silence they tried to protect. Hollywood is cutting off donations. White House early bird special. I mean, how long is this going to go on? Trump advisors worry Harris bigger threat than he thinks. I don't know what to make of that. I mean, she's not a serious person. She's not. Who is Kamala Harris is a creation of the media. So she would be younger. She'd be different, potentially. I mean, that is not what we need. But, I mean, yesterday, President Biden called himself a black woman. How much longer is this going to go? Folks, this portion of the John DePetro show, I want to remind you about J. Perry Paving. Now, listen, if you're thinking of getting your driveway paved, call J. Perry Paving today, 401 732 1730. 401 732 1730, letter J. J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service, 20 years experience specializing in commercial paving, residential paving, seal coating, patios, free estimate. So maybe you have been thinking about getting your driveway paved. Call J. Perry Paving today at 401 732 1730. 401 732 1730. High quality, fair pricing. It makes such a difference when you have your driveway paved. Folks, J. Perry Paving. Free quote 401 732 1730. You can find them on Facebook. If you're listening or watching right now and you've been thinking of getting your driveway paved or maybe at work, a parking lot paved, call J. Perry Paving, 401 732 1730 for letter J. J. Perry Paving. Well, folks, good afternoon. This is, whether people realize it or not, this is obviously a pivotal day, only because now, everyone is going to tune in and see exactly what type of condition. For those that would say that, George Stephanopoulos is in the bag, the fact of the matter is, there's a lot at stake for Stephanopoulos here. So he can't suddenly, go with, just kind of going along for the White House ride. He can't do that. This may be an opportunity. I'm not saying in the past he hasn't been sympathetic. We all know his background with working in the Clinton White House. But what people need to realize, as far as I'm concerned, is Stephanopoulos recognizes that there's a lot at stake. So, but I want to come back to what does it say if that is the new measurement of if he can get through a 15-minute taped interview, that he is suddenly okay to be the commander-in-chief. I don't think they have a plan. It sure sounds as though, I'm not convinced he's staying. I think it's really interesting that you have two governors side by side. One is Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, who is come right out and refuses to go along with this whole thing, and basically saying that she feels, and the quote was, that it's irretrievable. Whereas, of course, Governor McKee goes hat in hand trying to support him, thinking that if he does, he's still going to get the money for the bridge. So I think what we're really down to now is pressure is going to build. And Biden may be saying he's all in right now. But here's the real truth. It's not like he had a bad debate. That's who he is right now. That is the condition that he's in right now. And he can't suddenly, go out and hit his stride on the campaign trail, or there's no guarantee what the next debate may be. So, but I think the larger question that we're finding right now is, and it's the old kind of question that was, with Watergate and President Nixon at the time. And the question was, but what did the president know and when? And now it's becoming, I think they're in a disaster situation, and it's of their own doing. The people that are truly responsible are Jill Biden and the staff. They're the ones that have encouraged him to stay. They're the ones that have been saying he's staying. Even Harris now. I'll tell you what's fair game. How many times did she sit and say he was fine? Clearly, he's not fine. Now, folks, I want to remind you, if you're listening right now on this Friday and you have problems with your feet or ankle, people ask me this all the time. How are you able to walk 7 to 8 miles a day? Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist, right there in the Smithfield Medical Center, Route 5 in Smithfield. Remember, they have doctors that are board certified podiatrists. 3 available. You can make a same day or next day appointment. They take all health insurance. They perform all aspects of foot care, from skin conditions to bunions, hammer toe. They treat injuries like fractures and sprains. They have a digital x-ray on site. Remember, foot pain is not normal and shouldn't be ignored. Some people think, oh, it's part of aging. I can't walk around anymore. That is not part of aging. That is not normal. It shouldn't be that way. And it doesn't have to be that way. Doesn't have to be that way. Not if you go to Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist. Regain that quality of life. Don't stop into a kiosk at a mall or some of these pop-up stores and you have a 19-year-old clerk that's selling you $1,000 inserts. That's not the way to go. No, Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist. Call them today, 401-949-3220. It is not God's will that you have foot pain or ankle pain. Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist. Deal with a doctor. Something's wrong with your car, you go to a mechanic. You have a problem with your eyes, you go to an optometrist. You have a problem with your feet, you go to Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist. 401-949-3220. Located right in that Smithfield Medical Center, Route 5 in Smithfield. It's so impressive. They will straighten it out. Many patients walk out of the office feeling better that day. Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist. Well, folks, good afternoon. This is really, I can't state enough. I recognize, let's just play this out. All right, so what? We don't know what's going to happen. I can tell you that ABC is under tremendous pressure to not bail him out on this interview. And I know some people may not realize that, but there's a lot at stake. And one of the things that ABC has agreed to do is release a transcript of the interview. So what you're going to see, let's look on the bright side. Let's just say President Biden has a nap and feels good and doesn't have a cold, and he sits down and does this interview with Stephanopoulos. To me, like what does that prove? You're just trying to like buy time. It doesn't change the dynamic. It doesn't change who he is. Now, as much as I have been saying, and I have been saying this all along, they don't want to leave. Jill Biden, there's a lot at play here with the Bidens, by the way. As I've said, and there's many different ways, as we have talked about. For instance, just the way the media have been enablers of them. The way they even refer to her as Dr. Jill Biden. She's not a doctor. The only time that title should be used, she is a PhD, is if she was on a college campus. But you see her introduced with Colbert, with Jimmy Kimmel, with all these Dr. Jill Biden. That's a fraud. There's so much of what they have been talking about, the Bidens, that is a fraud. His condition has been a fraud. She's not a doctor. And all the media would go along and introduce her as Dr. Jill Biden when she's technically not a doctor. She's not a doctor. She's not a medical doctor. She's not an eye doctor. She has a PhD. There's a lot of people that have a PhD. They're not introduced as the only time would be if you are in an education setting, and if she was going to be speaking somewhere, for instance, like on a college campus, you may then refer to her as Dr. Biden. But it begins there. That's number one. Number two, never forget, they feel gypped because in 2016, President Obama shoved them to the side and said Hillary will be the nominee. The Bidens never, and I'm not saying I blame them, by the way. He didn't challenge her. He said, okay. And what happened? Hillary ran, lost. President Trump got elected. Then he emerged and won in 2020. So they feel gypped. I'm not saying it's justified. I'm not fully saying it's justified, but they feel Camp Biden, Team Biden, whatever you want to call it, him, the president, the first lady, the son obviously feels, well, you got to stay because then otherwise everyone's going to blame me. They have a lot of dynamics here. The chief of staff, the sister, they feel that if he had run in 2016, he could have won. As a result of that, and I've talked about that, as a result of that, they feel, I'm not saying he would have won, but they're saying they believe he would have won, and then 4 years ago, he would have gotten his second term. They feel gypped, the Bidens do, that he didn't get the 8-year, the 2 terms, which whether people recognize it or not, that's how our presidency now has been defined. It bothers President Trump that he didn't get a second term. It bothered President Bush 41 that he didn't get a second term. It always hampered Jimmy Carter that Reagan beat him and he didn't get a second term. So, in 72, you go back in history when Nixon got in all that trouble, it's because the second term was so important. They just become enamored of the power. And so the Bidens, this has been a charade. I mean, anyone that follows this, regardless of your political standing, he doesn't have it. This is not a matter of a little bit older. When you see even President Biden from 2020 in the debates, he is like a different guy. He is. President Trump, he's older, but there wasn't that much difference of President Trump from 16 to 20, and there really doesn't seem to be that much difference from 20 to 24. But Biden there is, and that can happen. But I think the larger question, and I recognize a lot of people are very dismissive and distrustful of our media, right? The mainstream media, and they protect him and so forth. But if you have watched the White House press briefings the past couple of days, they're not protecting. They were on the attack. And now that White House press person, well, let's face it, she shouldn't be there. She gave out false information. If you're going to stand in front of those reporters, as Sean Spicer found out, you can't give out false information. She said he had not seen a doctor. President Biden meets with the different governors that fly down, like Governor McKee and Healy, and says, oh yeah, I saw a doctor. They can't even keep their own talking points straight. So what does this mean next? I'm going to tell you what it's going to mean next in just a moment. But folks, I want to remind you, if you're thinking of getting a fence, Ann contacted me. They're thinking of getting a fence around their property. FenceRI.com. FenceRI.com. Call them 401-732-0555. FenceRI.com. You can also find them on Facebook. FenceRI.com is the premier fence and deck contractor known for quality, communication, and more. FenceRI.com. Remember, $200 discount if you mention The Chosen One, if you mention our show. $200 off. FenceRI.com. Wood deck construction, licensed and insured, 5-star rating on Google, free online quotes. FenceRI.com. You're going to notice the difference. And maybe it is because for a pool, or maybe you got a pet, or maybe it could be for you just want some more privacy, or more businesses are saying they want security around their property. I've talked about the business owner that he put out some picnic tables in the back of his business. His employees would sit out there. And then the past few weeks, they started coming in and there were homeless people sleeping under the picnic tables. He said, all right, so I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to have to fence in this area. I'm going to call FenceRI.com. And they said, do we get $200 off? I said, yes, if you mention the show. Folks, FenceRI.com, and also their premier fence and deck contractor. A deck is a game changer. A deck changes. I was a big, we'll sit out in the backyard on the grass. A deck is another world. We love our deck. FenceRI.com, the premier fence and deck contractor. Call them 401-732-0555 for FenceRI.com. So, folks, good afternoon. I could talk, as I've said, I recognize there are other stories in the news. People still want to talk about the Karen Read trial. We'll get to that. People want to talk about the fact that Governor McKee, apparently, worst spin in the world, we put together We wanted people to bid on a project that we knew was not feasible. Makes no sense at all. Totally ridiculous. It speaks volumes. You would think that you have a bridge project, the Washington Bridge, $800 million to $1 billion project. You would think you would have contractors coming out of the woodwork. Imagine being the firm that lands that, a $1 billion contract. No one bid on it. No one bid on it. What does it tell you that no one bid on it? There will be days to talk about that. But when you have the situation with the President of the United States, it becomes a different deal. And in my mind, that takes over in Trump's soul, so to speak. So I know that I think it's interesting that people are saying, be careful, because Kamala Harris would be stronger. I don't think that. I mean, that is an individual. Anyone that's dealt with her, she is toxic. She is impossible to deal with. But let me tell you what's happening right now with the Democrat Party that can't be ignored. And that is the fact that you do have people that would love to jump in on the race. So here's what I think potentially could happen. I don't believe that President Biden is going to resign. I don't think they want to leave that way. I believe if he's not going to run, then they're going to have to throw open the convention and make the convention open, which would be very interesting in Chicago coming up in August. And suddenly open it up. And then you get to see who would jump in. Now, the convention is the 19th through the 23rd. So it's very possible that if President Biden says, okay, I just want to finish out the term, he doesn't want to resign, but he's not going to run for re-election. Let's look at who goes to the convention, is going to try to be working delegates to be the nominee. Definitely Vice President Harris. Definitely the governor of California, Governor Newsom. Without question, apparently the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. Also, the governor of Pennsylvania and Illinois. I don't know as much about those two. They would definitely want to jump in. But the one locally, or local ties, I should say, that you can't ignore would be Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. But here's something that, see, Harris, Vice President Harris, who is so toxic, who is unqualified, who I don't think can win. I don't think she can win. But now they feel she's younger. Now it's her against Trump. Then maybe she could get the black community energized. She's trying to push everybody out. She failed on the border. She's really not a strong candidate. As Donna Perry said, she's actually a creation of the media. I think Harris is not a serious person. But what she's trying to do is clear the field. And some of her camp are basically trying to say that if you deny the vice president, you're going to deny the presidency of the first female of color to be the president. So, again, I don't believe that President Biden resigns. I think the biggest he does is announce he's not going to run for re-election. And then you have, by the way, what it should be, which is then, it's decided by the delegates at the convention. Now, if it's truly wide open, then you have Raimondo in full motion. Even though she was going to wait for 28, Gina Raimondo does not want to just step back and let Kamala Harris become the nominee. Because with Harris, even if she lost, she would then claim that she's the nominee for 28 as well. So I believe that whether it's the governor of California or whether it is Commerce Secretary Raimondo, now keep in mind you also have like Mayor Pete would like to jump in. I believe none of them can afford to wait till 28 because Harris wants to clear the field. Vice President Harris would love if Biden did resign and then she becomes the president. Then that, let's face it, then there is no battle. Then she goes to Chicago next month for the crowning. I don't. Then the Bidens have to leave the White House, which they don't want to do, and they don't get to fly in Air Force One anymore. I don't think they're willing to do that. I think if the least they do. Now, first of all, I want to repeat. I don't think this interview tonight does it. All right, so what? Now we'll see. Unless it's a total bomb, and then he does have to be forced out. I know he wants to hold on to power. Of course he wants to hold on to power. Of course he does. Who would want to leave? I've been inside the White House. It's a party every night. It's the greatest place in the world to live. You get to travel on Air Force One. Who would want to leave? No one would want to leave the White House. But this is insanity that this all depends on whether or not he can comport himself in a 15-minute taped interview with George Stephanopoulos. Now they're going to run at 8 o'clock tonight. I think ABC's This Week is going to run it on Sunday. Know this, ABC News is under tremendous pressure to release everything. This is a high-pressure interview for Stephanopoulos. It is. What I mean by that is Stephanopoulos can't just roll over on this. He can't. ABC News does not want to. They don't want to get hammered in this interview. They don't, and that's why they're going to release everything. They didn't do that last time. He did an interview. They edited it. This time, everyone gets to see everything. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by AJ Home Improvement. So, Susan sent me an email. Susan's parents are selling their home, thinking of moving in with Susan and her husband and family. And so they're going to add on an in-law apartment. So ask me, who is it that I recommend? AJ Home Improvement, Susan, 401-323-9252. New homes, additions, they do tremendous acoustical ceilings, frame to finished basements. Maybe you have an unfinished garage, whether it's painting or remodeling. AJ Drywall, Plasters, and Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. 401-323-9252. AJ Drywall, Plasters, and Home Improvement. Commercial rehabs, painting, remodeling, they do it all. Call them, get them in the mix, serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts. AJ Drywall, Plasters, and Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. If you're thinking, maybe you are going to add an addition, or maybe you're going to redo your basement, or maybe you need some painting done, AJ Drywall, Plasters, Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. So, folks, again, good afternoon. This is high stakes. I mean, like everyone else, I'm interested to see how the president is going to do. But what I believe that the ship has already sailed. I do. I mean, I'll watch it tonight. President Biden is going to be interviewed with George Stephanopoulos on ABC. It's going to be 8 o'clock. So at ABC, I'm sure they want to drag it out a little bit. They'll build into it. I mean, I hope, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I hope they're not going to do the first half hour is a waste. And then we have to wait, like they're teasing it. I don't know how long it's going to be. But I come back to, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because he is still the president and it does matter. But I think it's an unfair expectation, because even if he is sharp, the White House press briefings, they're now asking, does he nap every day? He told the governors, I'm going to start, no more events after 8 o'clock. I'm going to start going to bed at 8 o'clock. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's not the job requirement of whoever wants to be the president of the United States. They can't keep their talking points. He can't keep talking points straight. And it is bordering on, it goes beyond elder abuse. It's selfishness. It is selfishness, really, with Jill Biden and his staff. They thought that, and I'll tell you what this is. They thought that they could make this whole thing, and let me just reset. It's 12:48, folks. It's Friday, July 5th. You're listening or watching the John DePetro Show. Remember, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. For all of our links, go to depetro.com, DEPETRO.com. Listen, to me, they felt they're going to make this a referendum on President Trump. January 6th, the conviction in that New York case, blah, blah, blah. Like one thing after another. We're going to make this all about that guy. Democracy's on the ballot, January 6th. They thought we're just going to push all the attention, and they have raised money, over on President Trump. What the problem was and is that whole idea and strategy, boom, it imploded last Thursday night in that debate. And now, to me, the White House and the Biden campaign, they've lost the media. This is the ultimate. Are you going to believe us or your lying eyes? And the White House, they do push back. He had a cold. He was jet lagged from his trip 2 weeks ago. They have been carrying on this conspiracy, this charade that he's actually fine. Here's a good question. Would they let him drive right now? Would you get in the car if he were driving? Here's a good question. Would you trust him to drive? Would his family trust him to drive his grandchildren right now? We all know the answer. The answer is no. For fear that he could get confused, get in an accident. Happens a lot of times. So the fact that Governor McKee and some of these others are coming back, he's great. I think the dam is broken. I do. And listen, tonight, if anything, will be entertaining. The longer he stays, as long as he's running for re-election, it remains a story. The moment he says he's not running for re-election, it stops being a story. So I would like him to stay, because then it remains a story. Folks, this portion of our program, those on Road Patrol know I always pump them. Don Jose's Tequila, upscale Mexican cuisine, right there on historic Federal Hill, 351 Atwells Avenue, Don Jose's Tequila. Now remember, on Saturday night, dining out front, al fresco. They do have the back patio. Monday through Thursday, $26.99, 3-course special. They have the margarita flights, Taco Tuesday, and brunch on Sunday, 10:30 to 3. I would love you to try this exciting, fantastic restaurant, Don Jose's Tequila, with over 50 high-end tequilas. Stop in and see them. Upscale Mexican cuisine. It's a very festive atmosphere. 351 Atwells Avenue in Providence. So I guess we're going to have to go through the charade. We're going to have to go through this whole notion that he's fine and he just had a cold. No one believes it. And let's see how he performs with the George Stephanopoulos 15-minute interview. As if that means anything. That doesn't mean anything. And by the way, anyone, if you're listening right now at 12:52, if you've had a family member or a friend or someone you know, if you've encountered someone that has Alzheimer's, dementia, it's a cruel disease, and it's very tough on the people around them. And I've without getting into too much detail, I've been there. And maybe in your own family, see, everyone's rooting for you. Do get, as I think of it, you get the family member that says, I went and saw grandma, she was good. No, she was very good, she was fine. They think they're being encouraging. This is different than that. This is the president of the United States we're talking about. I mean, I have seen, and sometimes, by the way, when you go and visit, I'll just stick with a family member that is coming down to this. You want to be hopeful. You want to think that person is okay. And so you find yourself like, no, I saw, grandpa. He was good. Yeah, we chatted, had something to eat. No, he seemed very good. So you want to be that way. Maybe they were for a half hour. So the notion that if he does well tonight with Stephanopoulos, the campaign's on. I don't believe that, because a cold, you get over a cold. This is not about what's he going to be like President Biden in 3 months from now. This is not what is he going to be like 6 months from now. What is he going to be like 1 year from now? What is he going to be like 3 years from now? I think the dam has burst open, whether they were trying or not. I don't think there is going back. I'll give credit. It's the governor of Massachusetts. She at least is dealing in reality compared to Governor McKee. For the governor of Massachusetts to be saying, it's, I don't want to find the exact word she used, which it's irretrievable. Irretrievable. I agree with Governor Healy. She's far more in the game than Governor McKee. Oh no, he's great. He even said he's still going to give us the money for the bridge. So I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I mean, I know why Governor McKee is saying that. He has to keep saying that, but it's not going to happen, folks. Remember Propane Plus. Rhode Island, serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts, 401 885 4209. In Massachusetts, 508 252 3359. Heating and cooling, Propane Plus. 3 generations. Remember, Propane Plus, residential, commercial. You can always depend on Propane Plus. Tim Johnson and his family, 3 generations. Give them a call today. Remember, you can always go online at propaneplus.com, and then you just type in your zip code, residential or commercial. It's Propane Plus, or call them in Rhode Island for all your propane needs, 401 885 4209, or Massachusetts, 508 252 3359 for Propane Plus. So, like everyone else, listen, I'm going to watch tonight, and we're going to do Road Patrol after that, maybe before then if something breaks. But I definitely want to see this. I want to see it in real time. I want to see how ABC is going to trot this out. But I want to come back to the idea that if President Biden does a good 15-minute taped interview with George Stephanopoulos, that he's fit to be the commander-in-chief. He's not. I agree with those that have said if he actually is okay, he should be able to walk into the press briefing and do live 1 hour. Some people are saying 2 hours, but a 1 hour unscripted. What questions do you have? Press conference. He's not doing that because he can't do it. Now, before we call our friend Marie, I want to remind you, if you're thinking of getting a new kitchen or bathroom, Dreammaker, Bath and Kitchen, one-stop shop, concept to completion. Call them today, 401 433 7272. 401 433 7272. Respect, integrity, customer focus. They have a beautiful state-of-the-art designer showroom. If you're listening right now on this Friday, July 5th, maybe you've been thinking of getting, redoing your kitchen or bathroom. Dreammaker, Bath or Kitchen, 401 433 7272, right near Crown Plaza. And their Facebook page is really remarkable. It's Dreammaker. You think getting a new kitchen? Get them into the mix. All right, right now, we will be doing Facebook Live later, but I want to talk with our friend Marie at It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. We talk to her every week at this time. And if you're on Mendon Road, you could stop in and see Marie. Let's see if we can locate her on this Friday. I think we can.
It's My Health. This is Marie.
Folks, joining us on this Friday, it is the Queen of Health. It's our friend Marie. Good afternoon, Marie.
Good afternoon, John. Happy 4th. A day late, but happy 4th.
Happy 4th to you, Marie. Now, Marie, summer is clearly here. A lot of people are looking for some different products, maybe keep themselves hydrated or a nice tea. What do you recommend on this Friday?
So we do have some hydration products, some powders, and some liquids that you can just add into your water or into your drinks. That will help. And then, lots of really nice iced teas. I came across a nice recipe today that uses peppermint, spearmint, and rose hips. That sounds really, really yummy. And then we have some that are already mixed, like apple spice or berry lemonade or raspberry green tea. A lot of different things that you can make a tea and then ice it, or make it into a sun tea. Just let it sit outside and in the sun, and it'll be ready for you when you get home from work.
Now, what's happening at It's My Health this weekend?
Not a whole lot. The teachers are all off this weekend, so there aren't any classes this weekend. So it's just me. And
you're modest.
Just chatting with people.
Just the queen of health. And folks, you can also stop in Hemp and CBD products. Marie, what are your hours on this Friday, and what are your hours tomorrow, Saturday?
Be here till 5:30 today, and tomorrow from 9 to 4.
You are the queen of health. Keep up the great work. You're winning over so many new fans.
Thank you, John. Have a good weekend.
All right. Thank you, folks. There it is. Marie, It's My Health, 1099 Menard Road in Cumberland. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to break for the 1 o'clock news. Yes, we're doing Road Patrol later, but another full hour of the radio show to go. Stay with us on this Friday. But right now, let's get an update, the 1 o'clock news on the John DePetro Show.